Welcome to the Coaches Chat, presented by the League. I'm your host, John Sirenitas, and tonight I'm joined by the brand new head football coach at Braintree High School, a man that I've known for a long time, Dale Olmsted. Coach Olmsted, great to see you as always, brother. How are you?
Good, thanks. Same to you, John.
So obviously, as I just mentioned, brand new head football coach at Braintree High School, and you're coming back to your roots, longtime high school coach. Played at Walpole High School. You coached at Walpole High School for years. Coached at Dedham, coached at King Philip, amongst other places. You coached at Braintree. Then you get an opportunity to be a head coach at Millis. And of course, you've also coached at the collegiate level at Nichols and Tufts. But as you were saying to me before we went live, it's all come back full circle now. You're back at the high school level. What does that mean to you to be back at the high school level, coaching at a level where you cut your teeth early on in your career?
No, again, thank you for the introduction. It's something that I always wanted to do. I come to find out, college is a business. But the kids are the same. I love the kids in college. I love them in high school. But to see them grow at the high school level, and there's just a little bit of more community, kids growing up with one another. There's that bond that I think lasts forever. I know it did with me and my high school buddies. In the college level, trying to bring in, that from all over the country, to have them, focus as one and build as one certainly is a challenge. But coming back to high school is something that I've always wanted to do. And this opportunity presented itself, and it was a great fit and good timing. So I took a leap of faith, and here I am, very excited about the opportunity at Braintree.
Yeah, and of course, when we were talking prior to going live, you also mentioned Billy O'Connell, who was the head football coach at Braintree at one time, longtime baseball coach there. He's won a state title there, one of the best baseball coaches in the state. Guy you know very well. You guys went to high school together. You played together at Walpole High School. How much of an influence did Billy have on you taking that leap of faith and pursuing this opportunity?
Huge. Probably the reason why I'm here today. He and I still talk quite a bit and mention the opportunity at Braintree. I love Tufts University. Very proud to wear that those colors, on campus, and certainly going to the camps around, the country. Love representing Tufts, but Billy's a good salesman, I guess. He was telling me about the opportunities at Braintree and trying to reestablish a program that's had its ups and downs. And as you know me for a long time, I'm not afraid of the challenge and taking on a program that might not be at its top, but has potential. And, I'm really looking forward. But yeah, Billy O'Connell certainly set the stage and got me going in the right direction here.
And I mentioned, Dale, you've coached here before. So how familiar are you with the lay of the land at Braintree? You were there for a period of time, but how familiar are you? Obviously, they've been in the Bay State League for a long time. You know that. You've coached in the Bay State League for a long time. But how familiar are you with what the potential of the program is there?
They've had some great players in the past. They've had some very good teams. It's just that for whatever reason haven't had the consistency that everyone likes. A great town, great community. Still one of those kind of old school towns where guys like Dave Wall, who played there, is raising a family there, and I think there's a few other guys that I probably coached that are still in town, but Dave Wall comes to mind. Tight knit community. I'm very familiar with it as a player going there, and then as a coach going against Braintree, and then 20 some odd years ago as an assistant coach. But kind of was walking to school today, and they've done some upgrades. They got great facilities. They have another turf field behind the high school, so they've also come a long way, and very excited about the opportunity there.
Yeah, and of course, you mentioned you were tough coaching with Jay Savetti. I've known Jay for a long time, coaching them at Milton High School in the mid-'90s. So Jay and I go way back, and I mean, there are not many people you're going to find in the football community in New England as good as Jay Savetti. What did you take from your experience at Tufts? Obviously, you were at Nichols for a while, did a great job getting that program going, getting it to a competitive place. You go to Tufts with Jay. What did that experience teach you that you could take with you into this opportunity?
I mean, honestly, without Jay and Tufts, I probably wouldn't be here right now. They were allowing me to coach, as a tight ends coach, as you mentioned, Jay's a great guy. In fact, he did talk to me about his times at Milton, and it's a big rivalry, Milton Braintree. So he wanted to mention that. And no, Jay was great. It was great to sort of take a step back from being a head coach for 18 years, being an assistant, just kind of focusing on my group. Jay's a very great mentor, very good motivator, good coach, X's and O's. He's kind of has the whole thing going on. So yeah, I was able to learn, some of the systems that Tufts run, but more importantly, how Jay handles a program, from a mentor standard, and it was a fantastic learning experience. And I look forward to using what I learned at least the past 2 years and implementing it to my coaching style.
Now, I've always said this. It's hard. Like, I haven't been a head coach in a long time, and I'll admit, Dale, for me, I still have that itch.
Yeah.
I just unfortunately can't scratch it with being a middle school vice principal and running New England Football Journal. This is me being a head coach now. I can't scratch that itch anymore. I still help out at King Philip with Brian, but was that part of this? Were you sitting there going, okay, I've been an assistant the last couple of years, but as you said, you were a head coach for 18 years. It's a long time. Were you sitting there saying to yourself after this past season, man, the itch is there. I want to scratch that itch. I want to be a head coach again.
Definitely. The first year outside of Nichols, being an assistant coach at Tufts was different. It was a little difficult, certainly some growing pains. But last year I felt like I was a lot better, both mentally and physically. And I'm only 57, so I still have a little bit of bite left in this dog. And when all of a sudden a few schools started reaching out to me about being a head coach, kind of got me going. And 100%. And as I said, I was at Braintree today, and heading over there, getting the jitters, getting that feeling of nervousness, and all the anticipation. I think as a coach, if you have those feelings, you're in good shape. Then you're still ready to go. When you don't have it is when you should be concerned and probably should hang it up. But the feelings I have are genuine, and I'm very excited and nervous, and all those great things that will hopefully help me bring to Braintree what they're looking for in a football coach.
So you said you're 57. Are you implying that you feel that you're still young at 57?
Yes, exactly. That's why
I just turned 51 yesterday, so that makes me feel a hell of a lot
there you go.
better.
Oh yeah, so there's still time for you, John.
Obviously you and I got to coach together in 2005 on Brian's first KP staff. Yeah. I really enjoyed coaching with you. We had fun, a lot of back and forth. Kids loved playing for you. I know your style. You're a guy that, you're not going to be the yeller. You're not going to be the guy that's going to demean the kids. And it amazes me, and I will say this, because all of you guys played for the legendary John Lee, and we all know Coach Lee's style. And I didn't play for him as a Norwood guy, but everybody in the region reveres him. I did work for him at Noble, so I got a taste of it. But what did you learn playing under Coach Lee that you took with you at all of your various coaching stops in your career?
Well, I mean, again, John, you mentioned you met me in 2005. So those previous 10 years, probably a different coach. I think, as a head coach has allowed me throughout the years, nothing ever stays the same. So I have tweaked my style throughout my 35 years of coaching. But yeah, no, for me, it starts with Coach Lee. Being a player and then having the opportunity to be a freshman coach. I was an assistant freshman coach. The head coach at the time was Jay McGuire on the freshman team, who very well. I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. I just knew when I played, this is where I need to be. This is what I need to do. And that's all Coach Lee and the college coaches told me. So I didn't really get big picture until I started. And again, guys that played for Coach Lee, probably think of a name of Paul Truselli. He was a tough guy, and a lot of players kind of thought that, he was the guy, he did this, he did that. But when I got a chance to be a coach with John Lee, really could see the intelligence and the big picture in Coach Lee, and had certainly a different perspective of him and Toos, but more so Coach Lee, and everything he did behind the scenes as a head coach and allowed the other coaches to coach. And I've sort of taken that philosophy in with me moving forward. Again, I'll still get on the guys. I'll still yell, but I've taken a little bit out of everyone and make it my own. And the last piece I have, as you mentioned before, will be Coach Savetti. And his philosophy and his style. I certainly learned a lot from him as well. So I'm looking forward to adding that piece to my puzzle, and bringing it to Braintree High School.
You are watching the Coaches Chat presented by the league. I am joined by brand new Braintree High School head football coach Dale Olmsted. And Coach, there's going to be people in Braintree that are going to watch this, and they're going to want to get to know you. Talk a little bit about your coaching philosophy, your approach in terms of running a program. What are your expectations for the kids? What are your expectations for your parent groups, your boosters? What would your message be to these people?
Well, I first and foremost, you meant who am I? I'm a father of three. I'm a husband of over 30 years this year. Live in Walpole. I'm loyal to my friends. So my coaching philosophy is family. It's very important for me. My sons were named after, my father and grandfather. So I think that kind of sets the tone on who I am. Accountability, integrity, the things that I want to build in a program, but that it's easy for me to do that because I like to think that's who I am. So it's not like, hey guys, this is what we do. The doors closed, act a certain way. No, this is who I coach, the way I live my life. And I think that's important message to kind of send, so they don't get confused when you see you at like a basketball game or something like that. Philosophically on the football field, get the ball into my playmakers' hands, and the sky's on defense, fast and physical. I look forward to the town of Braintree and getting to know them a lot better. As I mentioned, I think it's a great town, still has that town feeling, with some of the players I know that are living in there, and just driving around town. I'm proud to represent that school and try to help foster the kids that are in there. But I think you get a guy who's genuine, who's going to treat your sons like they're my own, and kind of go from there. So you're gonna get all of me. I'll be there. They'll probably get sick of me. I'll be there 365. Certainly, the first few years, you really got to invest. You got to pay your dues. You have to take a step back. I'm a guy that's always taken on a program that has not been successful, and I think I can be successful with my patience, being patient, and teaching the fundamentals and a great foundation. If we can build up from there, we'll be competitive.
Well, I was going to ask you, philosophically speaking, offense and defense, what can your players expect? What can the fans of Braintree football expect?
Well, I'm not a system guy, meaning, I'm going to run the wing tee. I only run the wing tee. I only do this. I only do that.
Well, you're the best, my friend. I'm not either. So,
yeah, it starts with the guys that I have. I feel like I have a good eye for talent and what kids can do. So it's always is going to start with us. Whatever we can do best is how I'm going to form an offense. As you know, I've run double tight, full house, wing T, but also have gone no huddle spread. And again, being at Nichols and having many players that become coaches that are coaching Division I right now, and then having the opportunity to see Tufts and having all the great minds there as well. I've been able to add to that repertoire and utilize some of the talent I think I'm going to have there into a position to win. And then, again, defensively, I think it's all about, disguise, playing fast, playing smart, and always learning. That's one thing I've learned growing up. When I go back to when I first started out, I remember Coach Lamb, legendary coach at Natick, and then Coach Lee, and seeing them at coaching clinics and writing things down. And I'm like, wait a minute, you don't know everything. And knowing that the game changes and you have to go to these clinics, you have to, obviously back in the day I wore out my pencil writing down formations and this and that. But nowadays I'm still going to go and I'm still going to pick up one or two things that I can bring back to the program to help make it successful. So, as far as offense, defense comes concerned, you're going to get, hopefully max effort, from the start to the end. Not looking, we won't talk about the scoreboard. We won't look at it until the end of the game. We just want to keep looking forward, keep fighting, enjoy the time with our best friends that we have out there. And hopefully the score takes care of itself.
When it comes to taking a head coaching job, oftentimes guys they'll see what's out there. They'll look at the programs that have openings, and they'll try to figure out, okay, if I go there, can I win there? Is this a situation where if I walk into that building, is it the type of place where if I can develop the culture and lay a foundation within 2 or 3 years, I can have a competitive program on my hands that's a perennial playoff program competing for state championships? What do you think you need to do to get that going in Braintree? Because the perception of Braintree is that it's a baseball town. The perception of Braintree through the years is that it's a hockey town. You never hear people talk about Braintree as a football town. And I've always been a firm believer, if you can end up in a situation where the community loves football and embraces it and wants to be good at it, then you're going to be good at it. Do you see Braintree being a community that you can walk into this job now and say definitively, I can turn this into a place that loves football and wants to be good at it?
Well, I honestly wouldn't be here if I didn't believe that. I want these guys to be Super Bowl champs. I know it's tough with the Catholic schools and everybody talks about that, but I know Needham had a great run last year. As you mentioned, they're great in other sports. I think what they're missing right now, John, is some of those multi-sport athletes. We need to bring some of those baseball guys on board. We need to bring, some of the hockey players and the success they've had in other sports, and bring that knowledge, bring that winning tradition into Braintree. There's just not enough guys that I don't think at the moment, that you see names in the other sports. Why don't you see those names in football? So, and it's a big high school. I'm fortunate enough to be able to work in the building. I'm gonna be a teacher's aide in there full time. So I'll be able to recruit in the hallways. I'll, have lunch with the guys. I'll be walking in the hallways, grabbing guys that, hey, you ever think about playing football? So, and that's something I don't think Braintree's had in a while. Billy O'Connell's in the school system. I met today with Mike Larkin, who's an assistant hockey coach. So, Dave Wall, who grew up in Braintree, he teaches in Walpole, but he certainly spends a lot of time in Braintree. So I think being there myself, John, will be a huge positive spin to help get some of those guys that are walking the hallways or playing other sports that aren't so sure about football, but now see me, get to know me, trust me, and believe in the team and kind of go from there. So yeah, no, I definitely think certainly playing at the highest level is going to present some challenges. But again, I wouldn't be here if I didn't believe, in the school and the community and the kids.
Yeah, and you mentioned you're going to be an aide in the building, which is huge because I've always said, Dale, if you're not in the building, it's hard. There are very few coaches in Massachusetts in particular, but really in any state, there are very few coaches that have built powerhouse programs that are not in the school. It's hard to build that because, as you said, it's that rapport with the kids, right? You want to be around them
Absolutely.
during the season, in the off season. You want to be able to go to their games and other sports. You want to be able to recruit in the hallways. That was important to me. When I was a head coach at Norwood, one of the benefits I had was I was in the building. Brian Martinelli, my defensive coordinator, he was in the building with me. And that helped us. We were able to at least get the program back on track for a period of time. Why is it vitally, or was it vitally important to you that you be in the building? Do you see what I'm saying here, that that's an important part of this process if you're going to get the program going?
The last time I met with the athletic director, the principal, the committee, I said, I will not take this job unless I'm in the building. So that was first and foremost the number one important thing for me, to be in there, to be a full-time, employee of the town of Braintree, and specifically the high school. So yeah, I'm super excited. That's a great opportunity. Division I, big high school, great athletics. So we just need to make sure that the football program is up to the standards of the other programs at that school. And I look forward to it tomorrow night. Braintree's hosting Norwell, so I'll get to go there. And I think there's maybe one basketball player, a freshman or something like that, on the team. So my recruiting process will start tomorrow.
Nice. And of course, you're returning to the Bay State League, a league you know very well, but it's a much different league now. When you were last in the Bay State League, the argument could be made, and I'm not saying you can't make that argument now, but the argument could be made at that time that it might have been the best league in the state. I don't know if it's in the conversation for that anymore. The Hawk, the MVC, Catholic Conference, they can lay claim to that, certainly. But it's still a very competitive league. You have your Thanksgiving rival, Milton. You still have to play Natick, Wellesley, potentially, Weymouth. There's still some really good programs. It might not necessarily have the cachet as a league that it used to have, but it's still a pretty damn good league.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly, John. I mean, you'd know a little bit more about it because I have not been in the league as much as you have, but certainly being a head football coach, I've
And of course,
recruited.
I didn't mention Walpole. Walpole's still in the
Yeah,
Bay State League.
yeah, they're okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, being the head coach at Nichols, this was my territory. So yeah, well aware of the talent in the Bay State League, and I do agree. I think the Hawk and some of the other leagues you mentioned are good, but it's top heavy. The Bay State League certainly has some great teams at the top. I think when I was there, I think Brookline, might beat us one year. So I don't know where they've been of late. I'll be honest with you, but I know pretty much top to bottom, it was pretty competitive. Now it might not be as such, but with the way the league split up, you're playing Division One teams, or it's the leagues have kind again, I don't want to speak out of term or out of line, but I feel like the leagues have kind of gone away a little bit with some of the non-league stuff and the way the state playoff systems run. So, listen, we're going to play the schedule in front of us, no matter who it is. And, again, as I know that, as you mentioned, some of those Division One teams, the Catholic schools are great. And, we don't have to beat all of them. We just got to beat maybe one, maybe two to get to where we need to be. So, like I mentioned earlier, we're going to just take care of ourselves, do what we can, and put a big, great product on the field that the town and the school can be proud of.
Now, have you had an opportunity to meet with the kids yet and introduce yourself and talk about your vision for the program?
I did. I went in there today, just to sort of say hello and introduce myself. It was sort of, I don't want to say last minute, but there were a few kids that couldn't make it. But I'll be in the school tomorrow, and as I mentioned, I will start as a full-time aide there on the last week in February. So, I'll get my chance. But yeah, I mean, I met probably half the team, today. Looking forward to meeting the rest, over the next few weeks, and then maybe adding to that roster throughout the course of the spring, and kind of go from there. As you know, I coach a team of Millis with 18 kids, so
Yeah.
having 50
That won't be an issue here.
yeah, no, I mean, there's already 50, 60 kids in the team, so I'm super excited about the numbers, and looking forward to the summer and the fall.
What do you know about what you have coming back? Have you had an opportunity to take a look at the roster from last year and see what you have coming back potentially?
Yeah, so I'll be embarrassed. I kind of did look at it. I actually just joined Huddle today. I know our running back situation seems pretty solid. We have a few guys up front that are coming back that have some size. A quarterback that has some experience. So as far as evaluating the talent, as you talked about earlier, to come up with the offense, defense, I'm not quite there yet. But I'm going to use these next couple of weeks to sort of dissect everybody, give an evaluation, and as I said, being in the school and cafeteria, I'll be able to talk to these kids and help them, let them know what they need to work on, what they're doing well, and kind of go from there. So yeah, it's some potential for sure. But yeah, a read good enough to come up with a game plan right now. Not really, but there's certainly some talent there.
And speaking of game planning, does Braintree have a full schedule yet, or are you going to be in the market for games?
I think we just finished filling it out. I think the AD just told me that today. The first game, for some reason, something to do with the scheduling in the league this year, and we're picking up Wellesley game one. So yeah, we are complete, but we are looking for, I guess, a scrimmage. I don't know what that date will be. As I mentioned, I'm sort of in early communications with the athletic director and stuff like that. But he did mention today that we would be looking for a scrimmage. So anyone out there looking for a scrimmage, I'm not sure the date. I don't know if it's one or two games, but if you are interested, certainly email the athletic director and we'll see what we can do.
So obviously you're back at the high school level. I know that you're excited about it. As much as for us as guys that have coached together, we've known each other for a long time. It's really where your heart is, right? Like you've done the college thing. I've done the college thing. It's an awesome level. But in the end, this is where your heart is. And in a lot of ways, this is where, not that you didn't make an impact at Nichols, because you clearly did. You won a lot of games there. You made an impact at Tufts, but your impact at this level in a lot of ways is greater.
Yeah, I think so. As I mentioned, it's certainly the grassroots. I think, a lot of kids nowadays, especially nowadays, don't really play Pop Warner. If they do, it's more flag football. So their first contact and, just the growing pains of going through high school and everything that you get as a young adult. It's great. Deal a little bit more with the parents. Sometimes that's not so good, but the parents I know I made connections with, and at Millis I'm still friendly with today. I think I only have one, maybe a couple of parents at Nichols in my 10 years that that still check in with me. So the impact I think you can have on the high school athlete, in the community is certainly far greater than college, but you know. I, just different, at Nichols was a business, I needed to bring in a certain amount of kids every year. There was some good things with that too. I had a lot of first generation kids that had no opportunity and graduating with their masters. And I'm super excited and love to see these guys having families. And, it's just different, and the coaches though are the same. The college coaches I've heard from, Coach LeBeau and like Kevin Gilmartin and a few others, Vinny and Nichols, and to name a few, have reached out to me. So, great community amongst the college coaches, and the players, but it's definitely a business. I'm hoping, my true passion and love has always been in high school. But when I had an opportunity to go to college, I did not want to have any regrets. I saw Coach Lee and Coach Grant have opportunities to go to college. They never did. I had an early opportunity to go with Steve Nelson at Curry when Brian Lee was actually there. Just timing wasn't right, but I felt the timing was right for me now, and I took advantage of it, and I'm looking forward to the future.
You'll hear coaches say that kids have changed, or you'll hear people say that kids have changed. And to a degree they have. I mean, look, our generations didn't have to deal with social media. We didn't have the pressures that kids have today, but do you think kids have changed? And if so, how have they changed?
Well, I think, with social media, the mental toughness piece is probably gone. I think what you could get away with getting on a kid in the 80s, you couldn't do now. So they've changed in that sense, but I'm hoping the coaches are smart and know how to deal with that. It's all about reading people too. Some kids might need a little bit of a push, while others might need a little bit of a pat. Nothing ever stays the same, but in the end, John, they still want discipline. They still want accountability. They want to be loved. They want to be taught player development, the basic things, that tackling and blocking, the basics of the game is still there. The basics of the human beings, the young men are still there too. So there's certainly some things that clouded up a little bit. But in the end, if you show love and compassion and discipline and hard work, as I mentioned, that's how I raised my family, all my kids, and that's the way I handle the football program. So if you're that type of guy, if you're that parent that wants someone like me, then we're going to get along just great, and if you're someone that wants to point the finger, at someone else other than yourself to begin the conversation, then we'll probably won't get along so well. So again, I think kids need discipline. They need love. They need attention. I think those things haven't changed.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you. All right, Coach, final thoughts here. We have about a minute left. What would your message be to the Braintree football community here? Again, this is your opportunity. This is going to be out there. Here's your opportunity to let them know what they can expect now and in the future of the program.
Yeah. Well, I took over a program that was struggling at Millis, and then when I left it, they went on to win a couple of Super Bowls, and I intend to do that the same. Not that I plan on leaving, but it's going to take patience. We do want to build a nice, strong foundation. It has to start there. There are no shortcuts. So we're going to be hard. We're going to be disciplined on the kids. We're going to hold them accountable, and that nucleus of maybe a handful of kids to 7. We'll go probably by 3 or 4 a year. And once you start getting up into the 20s and 30s of a nucleus of a strong family, great things will happen. You'll be able to take the field with maybe not the talent you had before, but you're going to be able to, kids are going to look across and see Braintree and know they're in for a war. So I look forward to the challenge. I look forward to getting to know all of you. I look forward to getting to work with your sons and, get them in the weight room. That's all I can say.
Yeah, no, it's the recipe for success, man. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a reality. It always has been. That's never going to change. Dale, I want to say thank you for taking the time, man. It's great to see you. Look
Yeah,
forward
thank
to
you.
following you and the Womps now, and we'll be covering you guys throughout the offseason and during the season as well. And wishing you the best of luck, man. I don't say this because I've known you for over 20 years, but Braintree, you're lucky. You got a good one.
I appreciate that, John. Thank you. And I look forward to seeing you as well. You're doing a great job with high school football. And, I know it's been a while. I know Danny Ventura had that torch going for quite a while, and glad to see you and your company doing what you do. And it's just great. You just don't get that everywhere. So, thank you for you and everyone that involved in this organization.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It means a lot coming from you, my friend. So it's great to see you, brother.
All right. Thanks, John.
All right. That'll do it for this week's episode of the Coaches Chat. For Dale Olmsted, I'm John Serenitas. We will be back with you next week. Until then, be happy, be safe, and as always, peace.